I would like to begin by introducing Lee Buckler, founder and managing director of the Cell Therapy Group. Lee has made it his personal mission to communicate the vision of cell therapies and ensure that these game-changing technologies have the best opportunities to succeed. As we at BPI were contemplating whether it was time to start exploring this emerging class of products editorially, we wondered how developers of cell therapies were going to bridge that critical gap between research and commercial realization. Could they make use of or adapt technologies from other segments of the biopharmaceutical industry? If so, how could these different groups learn from one another? Lee has been a longtime member of our editorial advisory board and had been having these discussions with us, trying to help us determine when the time was right to bring cell therapies and regenerative medicine into regular BPI coverage. In 2009, therefore, he was instrumental in helping to shape and steer our first cell therapy supplement and the coverage of cell therapies in the BPI Theater series. He has worked with us closely in this way ever since. Lee has worked with over 45 cell therapy and regenerative medicine groups and associations. He has worked with and provided guidance to several conference companies to help create, organize, and breathe life into many cell therapy industry meetings that may owe their continued existence to his efforts and seemingly tireless networking. His work in social media also provides the cell therapy community and the larger biotherapeutics industry with much needed information and perspective about shared solutions to technical challenges. In 2008, Lee founded the Cell Therapy Group to help meet the demands for business-focused services within the cell therapy and regenerative medicine industries. Throughout his career, he has had the unique ability to make that one extra introduction, to connect like-minded organizations and individuals working to achieve common goals, and to always recognize and champion the big picture of cell therapy. BPI is proud to honor Lee Buckler as its 2014 industry champion, and I'd like to invite Lee to the stage now.
So I'm clearly honored and just a little bit embarrassed. It was great, just off the cuff, I'm sitting at a table with a couple of great companies involved in the cell therapy industry, Hemostemics that I'm on the board of, and BioCision, which has a couple of nominations here tonight, and another gentleman at the table tells a story about how a stem cell transplant saved his life, and that's really the most important story I think I've heard tonight, and that's why we get up in the morning. So I'm talking to my folks this morning because no accolade is important until your parents know about it and recognize that they're proud of you. And my mom says, well, make sure you iron your shirt, son. So I sent out a tweet earlier today saying, I'm looking forward to the awards and I'm ironing my shirt, to which BPI answered that they were thankful for the extra effort. So for the 4 of you in the room who follow me on Twitter, that's the story behind that tweet. Thank you to BPI for the award. To be described as an industry champion in an industry to which I still feel like I'm proving that I have the stripes to belong, this is the kind of recognition that means everything. More importantly, however, I, as I want to do, accept the award on behalf of the industry, because part of why I've won this award, I believe, is because I fought hard to get cell therapy on the radar of publications like BPI, involved in events like their conference. And it's still early, I think, going on that front, but to the extent that that this award has been given means that we've accomplished something in terms of getting cell therapy on the radar, and I'm pleased to accept that award in recognition of that fact. When I was notified that I'd received the award, I immediately referenced the criteria because I fit into any category. I never fit any drop-down boxes. There's never a data field that fits. There's never jobs that I'm qualified for, and never any criteria that I match. And so then I went to the criteria. I'm a small-town boy and living in a big city, a liberal arts grad working in science, a lawyer working in business, a Canadian working in America. I'm part of a senior management team of a biotech company, and the last science class I took was grade 11, and I'm in business, and I've never taken a business course. So that's why I went to the criteria. And their criteria was individuals whose clear passion, tireless efforts, unwavering dedication, and tangible efforts have uniquely qualified or helped BPI educate the industry, and in so doing challenge the industry, blah, blah, blah. And then I understood finally why I'm qualified. Because they were looking for someone who'd done an irrational amount of work for free. And apparently this is what I do. I'm not a champion in the sense of being a winner. I'm a champion in the sense of playing a lead supporting role. This is the supporting actor category of the Emmys. I'm a champion of champions. I'm a fan, a cheerleader, a supporter. If cell therapy was a sports team, I'd be the guy driving the bus. If cell therapy was a plane, I'd be the guy on the tarmac waving those flashing wands, looking like you're doing something important, but really just playing a supporting role to the people who are actually doing the real work. So cell therapy has been my focus since 2000, even though I didn't realize it was my passion since 2005. And when I decided that this nascent little industry was the thing that got me up in the morning more than anything else. I think if cell therapy were a human, it would be a tween, just growing up enough to occasionally be considered an adult, but still on an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs with little predictability and not quite sure what it's going to be when it's grown up, but it's well on its way to being that. I think while the industry is now attracting an unprecedented amount of investment and attention from large science and biopharma, their activity is still modest and the drivers are still based on future potential, not current business. But it's that promise of the potential to use cells as therapeutics, to change the way we treat the untreatable conditions that gets us up in the morning as it does with all of you, and headed to the bench or the clinic or the office or the investor meeting or however we each contribute. To champion the cell therapy industry, I've done really just made of myself employed very simple, commonly available tools, but it probably applied an irrational amount of pressure to them. I've used Twitter when I started as basically the lone voice of cell therapy, and that's changed. I've used LinkedIn and started the cell therapy industry group, and we're days away from being 10,000 members, which for cell therapy is really huge. And now there's a plethora of other groups. I foisted myself on BPI to be on their editorial advisory board as the lone representative cell therapy before we really had even coined the phrase cell therapy bioprocessing. I've used conferences and lobbied for content and then tracks, and then entire conferences have emerged to the extent that we have more content than we can consume. And BPI, as one of the few organizations who stepped up irrationally early and said it doesn't make good business today, but we drink the Kool-Aid, we see the future, we believe there's a future in the cell therapy industry, and they're going to invest in positioning not only their brand, but doing that in the only way that makes sense, by investing money in providing content and opportunity for the cross flow of information, education, and expertise. And I'm thrilled to just be a small part of that. I've always believed that my success is critically tied to my ability to identify people that I can ask really the stupid questions of, and to that extent, I owe a debt of gratitude to an entire industry of people who've let me do that and tag along, but especially a handful of people who were particularly patient with my ignorant questions, like Bruce Levine of UPenn, and John McManus of Mesoblast, and Scott Berger of ACGT Consulting, and Rob Negrin of Stanford, and Steve Noga of Johns Hopkins, and others. But I want to end by thanking three people in particular who really paid for my education in the cell therapy industry. First of all, there's Alan Eves, who gave me my first job in the industry. Alan Eves is a giant among tall men. He's a scientist, entrepreneur, extraordinary, who trusts his instincts to make irrational bets that almost always work, and I was one of them. The first 6 years I spent in his employ were the elementary, high school, and college degree of my education by osmosis. Second of all is award winner Robert Preddy this evening, who I'm sad isn't here to hear this, but he also paid me to learn on the job even before and supported me and my irrational contributions, or my feeble contributions, and over-the-top enthusiasm for the industry. He's also a scientist turned entrepreneur who envisioned a cell therapy industry when almost every single one of his colleagues thought it was just the practice of medicine. I, along with a whole generation of people in the industry, owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Bob's tireless efforts generosity, congeniality, and it's too bad he's not in the room because I was also going to throw in his rugged good looks and suave personality. First and finally, I'm grateful to my new CEO, David Hall, CEO of Reputable Sciences, who's dared to give me my latest job opportunity when I thought I was virtually unemployable after running my own consulting shop for 6 years. I'm very excited to be part of a senior management team again, shooting for the real thing, to develop therapies that nothing else treats. So thank you to all my industry colleagues, to all the people I've worked with in the past, to BPI for the recognition. And I would like you now to raise your glasses in toast to the promise of cells as therapeutics, because whether you believe it or not, today we're on our way to proving it. So here's to cell therapy.